"What suffering! What a terrible disappointment! I wanted to die of despair," wrote Princess Stéphanie in her diary after her first wedding night. Her hopes for a happy marriage and a peaceful family life were shattered in an instant. What seemed like a fairy tale wedding should have been the beginning of a beautiful story, but reality turned out to be much more prosaic. Stéphanie, daughter of King Leopold II of Belgium and Queen Marie Henriette, was born into a world where there was no place for love. Her father, remembered in history as a ruthless ruler who governed the Congo with inhumane tyranny, showed no interest in the fate of his children. According to modern estimates, his policies led to the deaths of 10–15 million people. At that time, Europe did not condemn colonization, and many countries actively exploited Africa's natural resources without regard for the fate of its people. Leopold II considered the Congo his personal property, rather than a Belgian colony. To maintain control, he implemented an unprecedented system of exploitation based on cruelty, blackmail, and intimidation. Marie Henriette, in turn, also lacked maternal warmth. She was more interested in horse racing than in raising her daughters. She believed that strict discipline and harsh treatment would make her children strong. Stéphanie, like her sisters, was raised by governesses who used corporal punishment. As a result, the girl grew up with a deep longing for love and warmth. When the time came for marriage, the choice fell on the heir to the Austrian throne, Archduke Rudolf, a man whose childhood was also far from happy. He grew up under strict expectations, rarely saw his parents, and received neither love nor care from them. His mother, the famous Empress Elisabeth, Sisi, was more interested in traveling, while his father, Emperor Franz Joseph, considered the display of emotions a weakness. All of this left a lasting imprint on the future emperor's personality. Interestingly, unlike his parents, Rudolf showed an interest in science and progressive ideas. He read Darwin, was fascinated by democracy, and even expressed Republican views, which made him very different from his conservative father. These views caused conflicts with Franz Joseph, who considered such ideas dangerous and a threat to the monarchy's stability. His father repeatedly tried to dissuade him, but Rudolf continued to admire Western liberal political systems, further straining their relationship. The wedding took place on May 10, 1881. Stéphanie hoped for a happy family life, but her husband was not what he seemed. He suffered from mental disorders, avoided his wife, and sought comfort in the arms of other women. Already on her first wedding night, Stéphanie experienced shock and disappointment, realizing that she was not destined to be a beloved wife. Stéphanie found no support from her husband or the court. Empress Elisabeth, known for her coldness, dismissively called her a giraffe and considered her unattractive. The court criticized the princess for not producing an heir, unaware that it was Rudolf who had infected her with an illness that rendered her infertile. Meanwhile, Rudolf sank further into depression, drank heavily, and lived a reckless lifestyle. He wanted a divorce, but his father refused. In desperation, the Archduke decided to take his own life and persuaded his young mistress, Marie Vetsera, to die with him. Their bodies were found on January 30th, 1889, in a hunting lodge in Mayerling. Interesting fact. After the tragedy, the Viennese court attempted to conceal Rudolf's suicide, claiming that he had died of a heart attack. However, the truth quickly surfaced, delivering a serious blow to the Habsburgs' reputation. Her husband's death brought Stéphanie not only mourning, but also freedom. However, her heart already belonged to another, the Polish aristocrat Artur Potocki. They had met several years before Rudolf's death, and feelings blossomed between them. In letters to her sister, Stéphanie called Artur Hamlet, and dreamed of tying her fate to his. But happiness was short-lived. In 1890, Potocki died of throat cancer. His illness progressed rapidly, and even the best doctors of the time were powerless. Stéphanie wanted to attend his funeral, but she was forbidden from leaving Vienna for fear of scandal. Her despair was so great that she petitioned the court for permission to travel, but was categorically denied. She could only send a mourning wreath of white roses, along with a note expressing her love and sorrow. Losing Potocki was another devastating blow, from which she took a long time to recover. 10 years later, Stéphanie eventually married the Hungarian Count Elemer Lonier. They met in Budapest at an official reception organized by the Austro-Hungarian court. Elemer was immediately captivated by her refined manners and the deep sadness in her eyes, while Stéphanie, starved for attention and care, saw in him a man who could be her support. Over time, their relationship strengthened, and in 1900, they married. The marriage was long and peaceful, though it probably could not compare to the feelings she had for Potocki. Stéphanie's life was a series of disappointments, lost hopes, and tragic turns. She was considered clumsy, foolish, and unlucky, but in reality, she was a woman who simply had the misfortune of being born in the wrong time and the wrong family. After her remarriage, Stéphanie renounced her title of Archduchess and permanently left the Austrian court. She traveled extensively and wrote memoirs in which she described her life without embellishment. She was one of the few European princesses of that time who managed to free herself from the shackles of royal dynasties and attempt to find personal happiness. Her memoirs became a valuable source of information about the lives of 19th century courtiers and the internal dynamics of the Habsburg family. Her life, filled with losses and pain, shows that even princesses are not immune to misfortune. Stéphanie died in 1945, leaving behind a story that still fascinates historians and readers today. Thank you for reading. Support our work with a like. It helps us create more interesting content for you.